is facing a challenge they shouldn't have to face alone. Your business can change that. When you join the Community Pay It Forward family, your kindness becomes action, and your sales becomes hope. For as little as $20 a month, you help guide families, nonprofits, and neighbors from crisis to stability. One small step, one powerful mission, one community coming together. Join the family today. Visit the website or scan the code and become a business where people can shop with purpose and support with heart.
Go ahead and go. Yeah, we're 7 o'clock. All right, folks. We will share a video to start off with, and let's see. Oh yeah, because I want to do it that way. It's not gonna. Sure, it will. I have the technology. Welcome to Storytime by Santa. I'm so excited to be reading stories for you tonight on this wonderful, amazing new platform called Be Connected. There's so many options and opportunities on this platform, folks. I'm excited to be here. And I'm glad you're here. And wait, there we go, folks. And how are we doing? Oh, I'll better change the view. Welcome to a story time by Santa, of course. And I hope everybody is going to have a wonderful time tonight. Let's see if I can even change this. Oh, technology. You got to love technology. All right. Anyway, here we go with story number one tonight, The Cookie Jar That Granted Wishes. Ho, 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 come gather close, my merry friends. Pull your blanket up, find your coziest spot, and keep a snack nearby because tonight's story is all about Zach's favorite topic, cookies. Not ordinary cookies, not even extra chocolatey cookies. These cookies could grant wishes. Now, before you begin planning to wish for a mountain of ice cream, a swimming pool filled with pudding, although that could be fun, or a pet dragon who does your homework, well, that could be really interesting too. Remember something very important, magic has a funny way of giving us what we ask for while teaching us what we truly need. This story is called The Cookie Jar That Granted Wishes. Deep inside Mrs. Claus's North Pole kitchen stood a long shelf filled with jars. There was a jar for sugar, a jar for flour, a jar for cinnamon, a jar for colorful sprinkles. Yes, cookies need sprinkles, and a jar marked emergency chocolate chips. Santa had once asked what counted as an emergency. Mrs. Claus had replied, usually you entering the kitchen. Well, isn't that interesting? At the far end of the shelf stood an old blue cookie jar with a silver lid. Tiny stars and snowflakes were painted around its side. In the center was a small golden heart. The kitchen elves thought it was only decoration. Mrs. Claus knew better. The jar had belonged to her grandmother, who once told her, this jar does not simply grant wishes, it helps people discover what their hearts truly need. Mrs. Claus had never used it herself. She kept it polished, protected, and placed safely out of reach. At least she believed it was out of reach. Then a young elf named Tilly arrived. Tilly was cheerful, curious, and only slightly taller than a stack of 6 pancakes. Just a little bit. She worked in the kitchen measuring flour, stirring batter, and decorating cookies. She also asked many questions. Why does bread rise? Why does vanilla called vanilla? Do gingerbread people know they are delicious? Mrs. Claus answered most questions patiently. One snowy Tuesday, she stepped into the pantry to gather more flour. Tilly was left alone with Marshmallow, a tiny white mouse who lived behind the recipe books. Tilly spotted the old blue jar. What is in that? Marshmallow looked up. I do not know. You live in the kitchen. I live behind a cookbooks, Marshmallow replied. I cannot cook. Tilly climbed onto a small stool. A silver lid gave a tiny jingle. Tilly froze. The lid jingled again. Did you hear that? Marshmallow backed away. I believe the jar has noticed you. Tilly reached towards it, then stopped. Mrs. Claus did not say I could touch it. That sounds responsible, Marshmallow said. The lid slowly opened by itself. Inside sat one round sugar cookie decorated with a golden star. Beneath it was a tiny note. Tilly read aloud, take one bite, make one wish, choose carefully. Tilly's eyes widened. A wishing cookie or a biscuit with excellent marketing, said Marshmallow. Tilly knew she should wait for Mrs. Claus, but there was something that she had always wanted. Tilly admired Zippy, the fastest elf in the workshop. He could deliver ribbons, buttons, toy wheels, and letters before most elves finished saying, where did Zippy go? Tilly wanted to help everyone just as quickly. She broke off a tiny piece of the cookie. I wish I was the fastest elf in the North Pole. She took a bite. The golden star flashed. Whoosh! Tilly vanished from beside the table and appeared at the other end of the kitchen. She gasped, then raced back. Whoosh! I am fast. She gathered spoons. She stacked bowls. She carried flour. She tied 5 aprons onto hooks. Unfortunately, 3 aprons were tied together. Marshmallow stared at them. I believe they have formed a family. Tilly zoomed into the workshop. Does anyone need help? Before the elves could answer, she delivered hammers, ribbons, paintbrushes, toy wheels, and wrapping paper. Everyone cheered. For almost 4 minutes, then things became confusing. Tilly brought green paint to an elf who needed red. She delivered a toy penguin to a train department. She carried 12 buttons to someone who asked for 2. She placed a toy trumpet on Santa's chair. Santa sat down. Honk! The workshop became silent. I slowly stood up. Well, he said, my chair has developed a musical talent. Everyone laughed. Tilly rushed to fix her mistake. She bumped a basket of bells. Jingle, clang, clang, jingle. She spun into a roll of wrapping paper and slid across the floor, wearing it like a cape. Zippy helped unwrap her. Being fast is helpful, he said, but your thoughts must arrive before your feet. Tilly's smile disappeared. She had wanted to help. Instead, everyone now had more work. She returned to the kitchen. Inside the jar sat another cookie. This one was shaped like a bell. The note appeared beside it. A wish may be changed when its lesson is understood. Tilly took a bite. I wished to move at my own speed again. The cookie glowed. The rushing wind stopped. Tilly stood completely still. She took a deep breath. I have never enjoyed standing still so much. Marshmallow nodded. Standing receives far too little praise. Mrs. Claus entered carrying a bag of flour. She looked at Tilly, then the jar, then the crumbs. Tilly, Tilly swallowed. I can explain. Mrs. Claus set down the flour. That sentence had visited this kitchen many times. Tilly told her everything. She did not hide the wish. She did not blame Marshmallow. She admitted that she had touched the jar without permission. I only wanted to be useful. Mrs. Claus sat beside her. Let's see. Change this. Toggle the view. How come? Nope. That's not what I wanted either. Huh. Oh well. She did not blame Marshmallow. She admitted that she had touched the jar without permission. I only wanted to be useful. Mrs. Claus sat down beside her. Wanting to help is good, but responsibility means pausing long enough to make a wise choice. I'm sorry, I know. Are you angry? I am concerned. Magic can become troublesome when we use it before we understand it. Tilly looked at the jar. Why does it grant wishes? Mrs. Claus smiled gently. It grants lessons disguised as wishes. Santa entered the kitchen. He noticed the jar. Oh dear. Tilly looked worried. I smiled. I recognized that face. It's the same face Jingle Pop made after inventing self spreading peanut butter. What happened? Tilly asked. We are still finding peanut butter on the ceiling. Mrs. Claus covered a smile. Santa examined the jar. We should place it somewhere safe. He picked it up. The jar vanished. Santa blinked. The jar reappeared on the workshop floor beside an elf named Pimpkin. Pimpkin held a moon shaped cookie. I wish I could make everyone laugh, he said. Wait, Tilly cried. Too late. Pimpkin took a bite. At first, nothing happened. Then he spoke. I feel perfectly normal. His voice squeaked like a rubber duck. Everyone giggled. Pumpkin smiled. He told a joke. Why did the snowman look inside the carrot basket? Why, said Zippy. He was picking his nose. The elves burst out laughing. Pumpkin told another joke, then another. He told jokes while the elves worked. He told jokes during lunch. He told jokes during Santa's safety meeting. Santa held up a chart. This picture shows the proper way to carry presents. Pimpkin asked. Yes, I was going to say with your hands. Everyone laughed again. But for a while, the joke stopped feeling fun. One elf needed quiet to paint tiny details on a dollhouse. Another had made a mistake and felt embarrassed. A young reindeer named Finn, sat alone because he had not flown as high as the others during practice. Pimpkin made a funny face. Pimpkin, Tilly quietly pulled Pimpkin aside. Sometimes making people feel better means listening. Pimpkin looked forward towards Finn. The jar appeared beside him. Inside was a second cookie. Pimpkin took a bite. I wish to sound like myself again. His ordinary voice returned. He sat beside Finn. What happened? I could not fly as high as everyone else. Pimpkin almost made a joke. Instead, he listened. Then he said, I struggled too. Last week I glued my boots together. Finn looked up. Were you wearing them? Yes. Finn smiled. This time the laughter felt warm instead of distracting. Pimpkin learned that humor was not about being the loudest. It was about bringing light while still respecting how someone felt. Before Santa could take the jar, it disappeared again. It reappeared beside Clover, an elf who made wooden dolls. Clover working hard, but she often compared her creations with everyone else's. She wished to make the most beautiful toy in the workshop. She took one bite. The wooden doll in her hands transformed. Its dress shimmered like moonlight. Its hair sparkled. Its painted eyes glowed. Everyone gasped. Clover beamed. Then the doll spoke. Place me in the center of the shelf. There is no room, Clover said. Move the others. The doll pushed aside a handmade wooden horse. Then it blocked a soft cloth bear. This lighting is not flattering, the doll complained. Clover frowned. You are beautiful, but you are not kind. The doll tossed its sparkling hair. Kindness does not glitter. The little elf nearby picked up the cloth bear. My grandmother made me one like this. She said it helped me sleep when I was frightened. Clover looked at the plain bear, then at her shining doll. She understood. The most beautiful toy was not always the one that received the most attention. It was the one that carried love. The jar produced another cookie. Clover took a bite. I wish my doll to return the way I made her. The glitter disappeared. The doll became simple again. Clover repaired the wooden horse that had fallen. Then she placed the doll outside or beside the cloth bear. They both belong. Santa finally caught the cookie jar. He placed it carefully on a large table. Perhaps we have learned enough magical lessons for one morning. The lid opened. Inside sat one final cookie shaped like a golden heart. Words appeared across the table. One wish remains. It may be used for yourself or shared with others. The workshop became quiet. Every elf imagined something, a special talent, a special toy, more confidence, a day with no mistakes. Tilly thought about speed. Pimpkin thought about laughter. Clover thought about beauty. Then came a soft knock at the workshop door. Outside stood a family of snow hares. A heavy branch had fallen across their winter burrow. Nobody was hurt, but they had nowhere warm to sleep. The youngest hare shivered beside his mother. Santa opened the door. You are welcome here. Tilly looked at the golden cookie. I know what we should wish for. Pimpkin nodded. So do I. Clover broke the cookie into pieces. She gave one to Tilly, Pimpkin, Santa, and Mrs. Claus, and the others helpers. Together they said, we wish for the Snow Hare family to have a safe and warm home. They took their bites. The golden heart flashed outside beside the candy cane forest. A cozy cottage appeared beneath the pine trees. It had round windows, soft beds, a warm fireplace, a pantry filled with food. Above the front door hung a wooden sign, Welcome Home. The snow hares hurried inside. The youngest hare hugged Tilly. Thank you. Tilly smiled. This wish felt different. It did not make her faster. It did not make anyone admire her. It made her heart feel calm and full. The blue cookie jar glowed. The final message appeared. A wish used only for yourself may create a moment of happiness. A wish shared with love may create happiness that grows. Santa smiled at Mrs. Claus. Your grandmother was very wise. She usually was. What happened when she was not? She trusted you near the cookie shelf. Santa placed a hand over his heart. Ho, 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 fair enough. Everyone laughed. Mrs. Claus returned the jar to its shelf. This time, she placed a sign beside it. The greatest wishes begin with a caring heart. Tilly never became the fastest elf, but she became one of the most thoughtful. Before rushing to help, she asked what somebody truly needed. Pimpkin continued telling jokes, but he also learned when to sit quietly beside a friend. Clover continued making beautiful toys. Her favorites were no longer the sparkliest. They were the ones children hugged the tightest. The Snow Hare family visited the workshop every winter. A basket, they always brought a basket of cookies. On top of one golden heart shaped cookie, Santa always volunteered to inspect it. For magical safety, he explained. Nobody believed him, and the old blue jar remained on the kitchen shelf, waiting patiently for the next person who needed to learn that getting what we want is not always the same as receiving what matters. Wow. The moral of the story is the cookie jar that granted wishes teaches us that our talents and wishes become meaningful only when we use them with kindness, patience, understanding, and responsibility. Being fast does not matter if we are careless. Being funny does not help when we ignore someone's feelings. And being beautiful means a little without a caring heart. The greatest wish was that one shared to help a family in need. When we pause, listen, excuse me, supper's coming up, and consider how our choices affect others, we discover that the happiness we give away often becomes the happiness that lasts the longest. Holy! Wasn't that absolutely amazing, ladies and gentlemen? That was a very awesome story. Now, story number two. Are you ready to hear story number two? The reindeer that glowed in the dark. Wow. Ho, 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 come gather close, my merry friends. Pull your blankets up, settle into your coziest chair, and keep your cocoa somewhere safe. Far beyond Santa's workshop, past the peppermint barns and the silver bell fences, stood Moonbeam Meadow, where young reindeer learned to run, leap, turn, and one day fly. Among them was a gentle reindeer named Lumi. Lumi had soft brown fur, curious eyes, neatly curved antlers, and a kind heart. But Lumi had one unusual secret. Whenever the sky became dark, she glowed. Not as brightly as a lamp or not like lightning, her fur shone with a soft blue white light as though moonlight had settled inside it. Her antlers shimmered, her hooves sparkled, and even the tip of her tail gave off a tiny glow. At sunset, Lumi looked like a walking snow lantern. The first time it happened, Lumi was very young. She had wandered outside after bedtime to search for a lost mitten. When the moon rose, her fur began to shine. Her mother gasped, her father blinked. A sleepy owl flew into a pine branch because he was staring at Lumi instead of watching where he was going. Who put a star in the meadow? He muttered. Lumi's parents told her the glow was beautiful. But as she grew older, the other reindeer noticed too. Some were amazed, a few laughed because they did not understand. Lumi, did you swallow a lantern? Do your hooves have an on-off switch? Can we borrow you during a power outage? The words made Lumi wish she could disappear, which was difficult when she glowed in the dark. Her best friend was a cheerful young reindeer named Tumble. Tumble had strong legs and an amazing talent for tripping over things that were not there. Once he fell into a snowbank while standing still. Coach Comet asked how it happened. The ground surprised me, Tumble explained. One evening, found Lumi hiding beneath the hay shed. You missed moonlight practice, he said. I know. Coach Comet asked where you were. What did you tell him? that you were still studying hay. Lumi looked at the pile beside her. Did he believe you? No, he said, hay is not usually studied from behind a shed. Lumi sighed. I do not want everyone staring at me. Tumble sat beside her. Your glow is not bad. It makes me different. So does my talent. Falling down is not a talent. You may not have seen my best work. Lumi laughed despite herself. The next morning, Coach Comet announced the special event. In 1 week, Moonbeam Meadow will hold the Starlight Trail Challenge. The young reindeer cheered. Teams would follow a safe evening course, solve puzzles, and help one another reach the finish. It begins after sunset, Coach Comet explained. Lumi's stomach tightened. After sunset meant everyone would see her glow. Tumble nudged her. We should be partners. It might I might not enter. Coach Comet overheard. May I ask why? I do not want my glow to distract everyone. Coach Comet looked towards the sky. Does the moon distract the stars? Or do they help one another brighten the night? My glow is strange, Lumi asked. Strange is often a word people use before they learn the word special. Lumi wanted to believe him, but courage does not always arrive the moment somebody gives good advice. Sometimes it takes a while to find its boots. Over the next several days, the reindeer practiced following ribbons, crossing bridges, and carrying pine cones. Tumble dropped his basket almost immediately. One pine cone landed on his head. He walked around calling himself King Tumble of Pineconia. Even Lumi laughed. During daytime practice, Lumi did well. She noticed details others missed and stayed calm when markers were hard to find. But each afternoon she left before sunset. 2 nights before the challenge, Coach Comet asked Lumi to stay for one short practice. You do not have to decide about the event tonight. Just take one step, Lumi agreed. As the sun dropped behind the hills, her fur began to glow. She closed her eyes. Another reindeer grew quiet. Then a young reindeer named Dash whispered, Wow. Lumi opened one eye. Nobody was laughing. Snowflakes drifted around her, caught the light, and sparkled blue. Tumble stood proudly beside her. I told you, walking snow lantern. Lumi frowned. A very elegant walking snow lantern, he added quickly. Coach Comet led the group onto a short trail. At first, Lumi stayed near the back. Then they reached a cluster of trees where the silver markers were difficult to see. Can anyone find the ribbon? Coach Comet asked. The reindeer searched. Tumble looked up and walked into a low branch. I found a tree, he announced. Lumi stepped closer. Her glow reflected from something tied to a trunk. There, the others followed her light and found the ribbon. Further down the path, Lumi spotted a scarf beside a dark bridge railing. Pippa, the youngest reindeer, hurried back. I thought I lost it. Lumi handed it to her. Your glow helped us find it, Pippi said. By the end of practice, Lumi had guided the group through every shadowy turn. For the first time, she wondered whether her glow might be useful. The night of the Snow Light Trail Challenge arrived. Lanterns hung around the Moonbeam Meadow as families gathered to watch. Santa carried a cup of hot cocoa. Mrs. Claus looked at it. Is that your first? It's the first one in this hand. The teams lined up. Lumi stood beside Tumble, Dash, and Pippa. Her glow had already begun and she still felt nervous. People were looking, but now she remembered that looking did not always mean judging. Sometimes people looked because they saw something wonderful. Santa walked over. Ho, 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 you must be Lumi. You know my name. Of course, Coach Comet told me about the reindeer who carries moonlight in her fur. Sometimes I wish I did not. Santa nodded gently. Being different can feel lonely before we discover our differences belong. Did that ever happen to you? Santa touched his beard. I have always laughed louder than anyone else. Still do. Exactly. I stopped trying to hide it. Lumi giggled. You do not need to prove your glow is important tonight, Santa said. Simply use what you have with kindness. The starting bell rang. The first task was to carry four small bells across stepping stones without letting them ring. Tumble picked up one bell. It jingled before he moved. He stared at it. The bell was nervous. The team tried again. They crossed slowly, but Tumble wobbled on the final stone. I'm having a meeting with a balance. Lumi held out one hoof. Take my hand. They crossed together. The next task was a riddle carved into a wooden sign. I shine at night but make no sound. I change my shape but stay around. What am I? The moon, Pippa answered. The sign opened, revealing the next marker. Soon the path entered a groove of tall pine trees. Clouds drifted across the moon, and the lanterns became difficult to see. Lumi's glow brightened naturally. Her teammates moved closer. Can you read? Dash asked. Lumi took a breath. Yes. She walked at the front. Blue white light spread across the snow. At the fork, the trail looked wider, but Lumi noticed silver stars painted on the rocks to the right. This way. A few minutes later, she heard voices behind them. Another team had taken the wrong turn. Lumi called, Follow my light. Everyone was back on the correct path. Thank you, said their captain. We are all heading to the finish line, Lumi replied. The final task was to pull a small training sleigh up a hill. The four friends fastened the harness and pulled. The sleigh moved a little, then stopped. They tried again. Tumble leaned forward so hard that his feet slipped and he nearly landed on his belly. I am now inspecting the snow. Lumi looked at the others. We are not pulling together. Dash nodded. Let us count. Lumi called. 1, 2, 3. They pulled at the same time. The sleigh moved. Again they counted. Step by step they climbed. While other teams nearby began counting too, and soon the whole hillside echoed. 1, 2, 3. At the top, everyone cheered. Then a light snow began to fall. It was not a storm, but thick, fluffy flakes made the markers hard to see. Coach Comet prepared to pause the challenge. Lumi looked towards the finish. She could still see the faint reflective ribbons. I can guide everyone. Coach Comet studied the safe trail, then nodded. Stay together, move slowly. Lumi walked at the front, not just for her team, but for all the teams. Her glow grew brighter than ever. Snowflakes sparkled around her. Whenever someone slowed, Lumi waited. Whenever somebody stumbled, another reindeer helped. Nobody raced ahead. At last, the meadow lanterns appeared. Families cheered. Santa clapped. Every team crossed the finish line together. Coach Comet held up a silver ribbon. This challenge did not have one winner. He announced, Tonight everyone succeeded because everyone helped. Then he looked at Lumi. One reindeer reminded us how powerful a difference can become when it is shared. He placed the red ribbon around her neck. It read, Let your light help others. The meadow applauded. Lumi's eyes filled with happy tears. Tumble whispered, Do not cry too much. We may need tiny umbrellas. Lumi laughed. Dash stepped forward. I'm sorry I ever joked about your glow. Pippa smiled. I think it is beautiful. Lumi no longer wished to disappear. She understood that being different did not make her wrong. Later, Santa sat beside Lumi near the warm-up fire. What did you learn tonight? I thought my glow made me stand out. It does. I thought that was bad. And now? Lumi watched the reindeer lapping together and standing out help others find their way. Santa smiled. Exactly. From that winter forward, Lumi became an excellent night trail guide. She helped younger reindeer who felt nervous in the dark and taught them to move slowly, watch carefully, and trust one another. She also learned that her glow changed with her feelings. When she was peaceful, it shimmered softly. When she was laughing, sparkles danced among her antlers. When Tumble told a particularly silly joke, her tail flashed so brightly that it once startled, used it to find a cookie he had dropped. Your talent has many uses, he said. Years later, Lumi joined Santa's North Pole support team. She did not replace another reindeer. She created a role that was never existed before. One even before fog and snow made training paths difficult to see, Lumi flew ahead and marked the safest route with her gentle light. Young reindeer admired her. Some had unusual talents of their own. One could hear bells from far away, another always knew when the weather would change. One had antlers that curved a different direction. Someone they felt whenever they felt unsure, Lumi told them, the world does not need you to become a copy of someone else. It needs you to discover how your own light can help. Every year during the Starlight Trail Challenge, Lumi led the opening walk through Moonbeam Meadow. Tumble still walked beside her. He also still tripped occasionally. Once he stumbled over a shadow. Lumi asked how. I moved suspiciously. Tumble replied, then replied, all the way to the finish line. And high above them, the moon and stars shone brightly together, each one different, each one adding its own light to the sky. Ho, ho, ho! Here's the moral of the story. The reindeer who glowed in the dark reminds us that being different can feel uncomfortable when we worry about what others may think. But our differences are often gifts waiting for the right purpose. Lumi found courage when she stopped trying to hide her glow and chose to use it with kindness to help others. We do not need to look, act, or shine exactly like everyone else to belong. When we believe in ourselves, accept support, and share our unique strengths, responsibility, the very thing that once made us feel alone may become the light that guides us entirely community. Wow, that was pretty awesome, guys. I hope you enjoyed that one. That one was pretty cool. Well, I am going to, let's see, I am going to, this is a short little video that I'll share about one of the shirts that I've got available. So you can check that out because Santa does shirts. That one, of course, is from Pip the Dragon. Oh, there we go. So, are you ready for story number 3? The duck was proud to be different. Just beyond a quiet little village sat the most peaceful pond you could ever imagine. It was called Willow Shine Pond. The water sparkled every morning like thousands of tiny diamonds. Tall willow trees gently swayed in the breeze. Dragonflies danced through the sunshine. Frogs sang cheerful songs from their tiny pads. Turtles stretched lazily across a warm logs. It was a place filled with laughter, friendship, and the happiest collection of ducks anyone had ever met. Well, almost everyone felt happy. One young duck often wondered if she truly belonged. Her name was Dottie. Dottie loved adventures. She loved asking questions. She loved butterflies, shiny stones, curious bugs, colorful flowers, and clouds shaped like funny animals. She noticed things that everyone else hurried right past. Sometimes she stopped to admire a tiny ladybug. Sometimes she watched a fish swimming beneath the lily pads. Sometimes she spent 5 whole minutes watching a leaf float across the pond just because she wondered where it might end up. Well, good point. The other ducks didn't always understand. Dottie, they'd call, hurry up, we're over here. Dottie always smiled and caught up, but she often wondered why everyone seemed to be in a hurry. There was always something that made Dottie different. Hidden beneath her left wing was a beautiful patch of bright blue feathers. Not dark blue, not gray blue. These feathers shimmered like the clear summer sky. No other duck at Willowshine Pond had feathers like them. When she was very young, everyone admired them. Oh my goodness. The older ducks would say, how beautiful. What unusual feathers. But as Dottie grew older, some of the younger ducks became curious. Why is your wing blue? Did you fall into a blueberry juice? Maybe you're part bluebird. They usually laughed after saying it. They were trying to be kind. Still, every joke made Dottie tuck her wing in a little closer against her side. Before long, she stopped showing her blue feathers altogether. Whenever anybody looked her way, she folded her wing tightly. Every Tuesday morning, all the young ducks gathered for swimming practice. Coach Quill stood proudly on the old wooden dock. Coach Quill wore a tiny red scarf all year long. Nobody knew why. Even Coach Quill wasn't entirely sure. I simply feel wiser wearing it, he would often say. This particular Tuesday, he blew his silver whistle. Straight line. The ducking, the ducklings lined up. Steady paddling, they began swimming together. Everyone stayed nicely in line. Well, almost everyone. Dottie noticed a bright green frog balancing on one foot. She smiled, then she noticed a butterfly landing on a cattail. She watched it for a second. Then she noticed a turtle hatchling waving from a log. And by the time she looked forward again, everyone else had paddled 20 feet ahead. Coach Quill chuckled. Dottie, she looked up. Oh, I wandered again. A little. The other ducklings giggled. Dottie to catch up. She wasn't trying to ignore directions. She simply saw so many wonderful things. After practice, she sat quietly beneath the oldest willow tree. She looked at a reflection in the pond. Then she carefully covered her blue feathers with her other wing. I wish I looked like everyone else, she whispered. Then she heard a familiar voice. May I join you? It was her grandmother. Everyone called her Nana Puddle. Nana Puddle moved slowly, very slowly. The turtles sometimes joked that she would be giving them confidence. She laughed at almost everything. She believed every day should include at least 3 smiles. She settled beside Dottie. For a little while, neither of them spoke. The breeze rustled through the willow branches. Birds sang overhead. Finally, Nana smiled. Heavy thoughts? Dottie nodded. My feathers. Nana gently unfolded Dottie's wings. The bright blue feathers shimmered in the afternoon sunshine. They're beautiful. They're different. They certainly are. I don't want to be different. She smiled kindly. When I was your age, I couldn't quack. Dottie blinked. What? I honked. Dottie stared for 2 whole years. 3. Nope. Oh, yes. What happened? I practiced every single day, and then I still honked. Dottie burst into laughter. So, what did you do? I became the official greeter whenever the geese visited. Dottie giggled even harder. They loved talking to me. Nana winked. What I thought was my biggest problem turned out to be something useful. She gently patted Dottie's wing. Sometimes our greatest gift wear funny disguises. Dottie looked at her feathers. I don't know how these could ever help anyone. Just promise me one thing, but never hide the wonderful person yet you're becoming. The next morning, excitement filled Willow Shine Pond. Coach Quill stood beside a large wooden sign. Attention, everyone. Young ducks hurried over. This Saturday is our grand finale. Cheers erupted across the pond. Coach Quill smiled. This year's adventure will be our biggest yet. You follow clues, you cross streams, you explore Butterfly Meadow, visit Turtle Island, and search for 5 hidden discovery markers. Pip immediately raised a wing. Question, question, yes. Will there be snacks? Everyone laughed. There will be a picnic lunch. Pip sighed happily. I know this was going to be an important day. Coach Quill continued. This isn't a race, it's a teamwork challenge. The winning team would be the ones that helped do, 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 do. One another, solves problems together, and pays close attention. Dottie smiled, paying attention. She could certainly do that. Coach Quill announced the teams Dottie, Pip, Maple, and Gus. The 4 friends gathered together. Maple smiled warmly. She was calm and thoughtful. Before making any decisions, she always paused to think. Gus was a young goose who had recently moved to Willowshire Pond. He worried about nearly everything. What if we get lost? We have a map. What if the map blows down? Well, we'll hold on to it. What if I accidentally swallow it? Pip blinked. I don't think maps are very tasty. Everyone laughed, even Gus. I suppose that would be difficult. Coach Quill handed every team a practice map. Today's lesson is simple. Find one hidden marker. The team hurried away. Most searched exactly where the map pointed. Dottie wandered a little further, not because she wasn't paying attention, but because something caught her eye. One patch of reeds gently moved back and forth. Everything around it remained perfectly still. That's odd, she whispered. She paddled closely. Suddenly she heard a tiny voice. Help! A young turtle hatchling had become tangled in an old piece of fishing string. Oh dear! Dottie carefully untangled the string. There you go. The young turtle smiled. Thank you. I couldn't reach my family. You can now. The hatchling happily paddled away. Just then Coach Quill arrived. What happened? Dottie explained. Coach Quill looked at the old string laying beside the reeds. Then he smiled proudly. You noticed something every other team swam right past. I guess I did. He nodded. Never underestimate someone who notices the little things. Just then Pip came running with the practice marker. Where are you at? Then he saw the turtle swimming away. What happened? Dottie rescued him, Coach Quill answered. Pip grinned. I knew there was a reason she zigzags. Everyone laughed for the first time in many days. Dottie laughed too, maybe too young. It was the beginning of discovering something wonderful. As the sun slowly set over Willowshire Pond, that evening Dottie stood quietly by the water. She looked at her reflection for the very first time. She unfolded the beautiful blue wing completely. The feathers sparkled in the golden sunlight. She smiled. Tomorrow would be a great pond adventure. She still didn't know exactly why she had blue feathers. She still didn't know why nobody noticed things that everyone else missed. But deep inside her heart, a tiny little feeling began to glow, to grow. Perhaps she wasn't different by accident. Perhaps she was different for a reason. Welcome back, my wonderful friends. When we left the Willowshire Pond, Dottie had just received a tiny turtle welcome as she noticed something that everyone else had missed. For the first time, she wondered perhaps that being different wasn't something to hide, but tomorrow was the Great River Pond adventure. And before the day was over, Dottie would discover exactly why she had been given her wonderful gift. The next morning, Willowshire Pond buzzed with excitement. Families gathered along the shoreline. The frogs sat neatly on their favorite lily pads. Bluebirds filled the willow trees. Even the turtles arrived early. One turtle smiled and said, "If we leave yesterday, we're always on time." Everyone laughed. Coach Quill stood beside the beautiful golden feather friendship trophy. It was polished wood, gleamed in the beginning. Good morning, everyone, he called. Today isn't about winning. It's about helping. It's about kindness. It's about paying attention. And it's about discovering every member of the team has something value to offer. Dottie smiled. She hoped Coach Quill was right. Then, one cheerful whistle, the adventure began. The teams paddled across the sparkling pond towards their first clue. Pip paddled so much excitement that he accidentally splashed himself right in the face. "I meant to cool off," he announced. Maple laughed. "I've been swimming for 30 minutes. 30 seconds. I get warm easily." Everyone chuckled. The first clue hung beneath a old wooden bridge. Coach Quill had written, "Where flowers dance without feet, your first discovery wall." Several teams hurried towards the colorful gardens. They searched under blossoms, behind rocks, inside bushes, but no one found anything. Dottie stared quietly. She watched the breeze. Hundreds of flowers swayed together, except one. One tall sunflower hardly moved at all. "That's strange," she whispered. She walked over and gently looked behind the sturdy stem. There hung the first discovery marker. "We found it," Pip cheered. Maple smiled. "You noticed something different again." Dottie grinned. "I guess I did." The next clue led everyone towards Butterfly Meadow. Hundreds of butterflies floated across the warm afternoon sun. Orange, blue, green, yellow, blue, purple. One landed on Gus's beak. He froze. "Nobody speak." Pip whispered, "I don't think butterflies understand whispering." The butterfly fluttered away. Gus sighed with relief. "I handled that bravely." "You certainly did," Maple smiled. The second clue was the smallest path sometimes leads to the biggest surprise. Most teams followed the wide walking trail. It looked smooth and easy. Dottie noticed something else. A tiny winding trail curved throughout the cattails. Small rabbit footprints covered the ground. Fresh leaves had been pushed aside, and someone had walked this path recently. "I think we should go this way," Dottie suggested. Pip looked uncertain. "It's awfully narrow." Maple studied the trail. "What makes you think it's right?" "The footprints, the broken glass, and," she pointed ahead, "a blue feather." Everyone looked. Sure enough, a bright blue jay feather rustled in on the path. Birds often build nests near quiet places. The others trusted Dottie. The little trail twisted gently through the marsh. Soon they reached a beautiful clearing. Right in the middle sat the second Discovery Master. We did it! We did it! We did it! Gus explained. He smiled so widely that everyone else smiled too. Soon lunchtime arrived. Oh, Mrs. Mallard had prepared a wonderful picnic: fresh berries, warm cornbread, vegetable soup, crunchy crackers, apple slices, and oatmeal cookies. Pip's eyes grew wide. I suddenly feel twice as hungry. Pip, funny, Maple laughed. You said that 5 minutes ago. I've been practicing. Everyone giggled as they ate. Dottie noticed Oliver, the fluffy little duckling, sitting quietly beneath a willow tree. She carries two cookies over. Mind if I join you? Oliver smiled. I'd like that. He looked down at his extra fluffy feathers. I still wish I looked like everyone else. Dottie gently spread her wings. I used to wish the same thing. What changed? I realized being different sometimes. I realized being different helped me notice things other ducks missed. Oliver thought quietly. Just then, a tiny duckling tripped while running nearby. Before anybody could react, she bounced gently against Oliver's soft feathers and started laughing instead of crying. That felt like landing on a pillow. Oliver blinked. My fluffy feathers helped. They certainly did, Dottie smiled. Oliver looked at his reflection in the pond. For the first time, he smiled at what he saw. After lunch came the final challenge. Coach Quill gathered everyone together. The last discovery marker is hidden beyond the lily pad marsh. But remember, the friendship trophy belongs to the team that best helps others. The team nodded and hurried away. Lily Pad Marsh was beautiful. Tall reeds surrounded peaceful pools. Dragonflies shimmered across the water. Bright green frogs sang cheerful songs. But as the afternoon clouds drifted overhead, the sunlight became dim. The trail markers grew difficult to see. Several teams wandered into circles. One group accidentally returned to the place where they started. Pip scratched his head. I think this march keeps moving. Maple laughed. I don't think marshes do that. Dottie looked carefully across the water, then she noticed something remarkable. The soft afternoon light reflected from her blue feathers in the smooth water. The reflection bounced from one flat stone to another, like the tiny blue stepping stones stepping through the marsh. She blinked. Follow me. Her teammates trusted her immediately. They carefully followed the glowing reflections. Sure enough, the stones formed a safe path through the muddy marsh. Soon they reached the final discovery method. We found it! We found it! Gus cheered. Everyone celebrated, but just as they turned towards home, they heard voices. They said, "Why?" No, this way. Another team had become confused. They weren't in danger. They simply couldn't find the correct trail. Pip looked towards the finish line. We could still get there first. Dottie looked at his friends. Then she remembered Coach Quill's words. This isn't about winning, she smiled. Let's help them. Nodded together. Maple nodded immediately. Absolutely. Together they paddled over. Dottie used the reflections from her light feathers to guide the other ducks safely through the marsh. Soon everyone was laughing together. The two teams traveled together, back together. No one hurried. No one complained. Everyone was enjoyed by the journey. When they reached Willow Shine Pond, everyone cheered. Coach Quill gathered all the ducks beneath the biggest willow tree. He picked up the golden feather friendship trophy. This year's winner, he paused with a smile, our team Dottie. The pond erupted with applause. Pip jumped so high that he landed sitting in a patch of clover. I planned that landing. Nobody believed him. Everyone laughed. Coach Quill handed the trophy to Dottie. Do you know why your team won? Because we found all 5 markers? Coach Quill smiled. Nope. You won because you trusted one another. You listened. You noticed. You helped another team instead of thinking about yourself. Then he gently touched Dottie's blue feathers. You once believed these made you different. They do. But different isn't something to hide. It's always something to celebrate. The young ducks nodded. Oliver smiled forward, stepped forward. I like my fluffy feathers. The little duck with extra large feet smiled. I like my big feet. Another duck proudly spread her curly feathers. So do I. Whether young duck felt different or unsure, Dottie would smile warmly and say, the things that make you different today may be the very gifts that help you tomorrow. And Willowshire Pond became an even happier place, not because everyone looked alike, not because everyone taught alike, but because everybody learned to celebrate the wonderful differences that make each friend special. And every time Dottie caught her reflection in the calm water, she smiled because she finally understood something that she would carry in her heart forever. She wasn't different by accident. She wasn't different on purpose. That made her all the difference. The end. Here's the moral. Every person is wonderfully unique, and the qualities that make us different are often the very gifts that allow us to help others. Instead of hiding what makes us special or wishing we could just be like everyone else, we can choose to believe in ourselves, work together with kindness, and use our unique talents to make the world a happier place. When we celebrate our differences and encourage the difference in others, everyone shines a little bit brighter. Woohoo! Wasn't that amazing, boys and girls, mums and dads? I hope you enjoyed this because it was another spectacular night of story time by Santa. If you're seeing the rewind of this, the recorded version, come and join us next week, next Wednesday, because I do this every Wednesday from 7 to 8 Central. So bring your cookies, bring your hot cocoa, maybe some lemonade, and come and have some giggles and laughter with Santa Papa John. Ho, ho, ho! Santa loves you. Watch for some big announcements coming up soon. They're very exciting. Good night, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.